So I'm curious, Eric, have you heard of Michael Jr.?
I have, but not to the extent of probably you. You kind of introduced me to him.
Okay. Yeah, he's not as widely known as maybe some other comedians. He has been on the comedian circuit for quite some time, and so he's who we're going to be hearing from tonight. But I did want to just kind of start off with a real quick intro, if I can, because some folks are on here, and maybe you came to Leader Connect, maybe you didn't, maybe you just jumped on because your operator sent you a link and said, "Hey, you should do this thing," right? But what is it? So let me just talk a little bit about Leader Connect Live. Welcome to Leader Connect Live, where we bring leaders together to grow, challenge each other, and have conversations that matter. This space is designed to help us think differently, share openly, and take away practical insights that we can apply in our teams and restaurants. Leadership isn't just about what we do, it's about how we think, how we show up for others, and how we navigate challenges with curiosity instead of frustration. And I say that last line because that's kind of a segue into who's going to be speaking tonight, Michael Jr. Have you ever been in a situation so awkward that you didn't know whether to laugh or walk away? That's exactly what comedian Michael Jr. thrives on. Finding humor in life's uncomfortable moments and then using them to teach powerful leadership lessons. He's not just here to make us laugh, he's here to challenge how we think about leadership, conflict, and growth. Michael Jr. has a unique way of blending comedy with deep insights, showing us that the moments we try to avoid, awkwardness, conflict, even personal struggles, are actually opportunities to grow as leaders. So as you watch, listen for the way he flips challenges into lessons, turns conflict into gold, and shows us how curiosity can change the way we lead. Before I go ahead and start the video, I'm actually going to direct your attention to the chat. If you can't see it, I uploaded a PDF that you should be able to use in the, I guess, note taking. After the video, we're actually going to do a little bit of a debrief. The video is not that long; it's about 25 minutes, and then we'll have maybe 15 to 20 minutes afterwards to do some Q&A, to do some debrief. And I'm actually going to invite the audience, anyone that's out there, leaders, other operators, if you want to help answer some questions, you'll be able to use the hand raise button to be able to do that. But part of the leadership process, or learning process, I should say, in this experience is going to be talking and doing the debrief questions at the end. So the talk is actually in Orlando, Florida. It's at a leadership conference called Live to Lead. So you'll see promo that talks about Live to Lead, but he didn't really get to do a whole lot of comedy at the show. So what I did was I spliced in just a really short segment of one of his comedy specials, just a 3 or 4 minute clip to just give you a sense of who Michael Jr. is and some of the funny stuff that he talks about, just to kind of warm up the crowd. So without further ado, let's listen to Michael Jr.
Even as a kid, growing up, we were poor. We weren't even poor, we were po. We couldn't afford the other letters, man. Yeah, that's a funny joke. I see this lady over here struggling. She don't know if she should laugh or not. It's okay, you can laugh, you can laugh. When you're poor, your creativity excels. Like it really, really excels. I remember I wanted an action figure when I was 10 years old. I wanted an action figure so bad. My birthday came along, my dad hands me a box. I open it up, it's empty. He said, "It's Invisible Man." I was like, that is awesome! I played with that thing for like 3 weeks, man. So my brother hid it from me. Couldn't find it nowhere, man. I knew he took it. We ain't had no money, man. My parents would buy us some stuff, but they couldn't pay for everything. Like we had the game Operation, right? We ain't had no batteries. Then my cousin came over and he figured out a way how to plug it into the wall, right? It's a whole nother game now, yo. Whole nother game. The Operation Roulette is what we called it. It was Operation Roulette. We just played one time. We played one time. I was like, nah, I don't want to play. I don't want to play. It's like, it ain't my turn. Somebody else better go. It ain't my turn. I ain't going. I love what I get to do, man. Let me start like this. There's 4 words you can use at the end of any amazing story, and people will believe your story. You just have to use these 4 words. I'm gonna tell you an amazing story right now. I met a lady who had a tail. Actual lady, she had a tail. I was at Walmart. Did you see what just happened in your brain just now? He was like, no, not a tail. I was at Walmart. Oh, yeah. I know her. Yeah. Why'd you say that? Sometimes people will ask me, well, Michael Jr., what makes you laugh? Like, what makes me laugh really is awkwardness. Like, I really, really like awkwardness. Did you feel it just now? It's the best. I'll get on an elevator when there's like 6 or 7 people in there. I'll let the door close behind me, and I won't turn around. They're not like, what floor? I'm like, it doesn't matter. And then I'll say something random like, it's Tuesday, but it's really Friday, and then everyone gets off on the next floor. Then I just giggle my way to the top. Then I go to the stairwell, and those same people from the elevator, and when I see them, I'm like, it's Thursday, and they go right back down the stairs. I like awkwardness. Here's some awkwardness for you. Next time you're in this situation, if you happen to be in this situation, you have to make the most out of it. You ever go on a job interview and partway through you realize, I don't want to work here. At that point, you should enjoy the process. You don't want the job anyway. They ask you those weird questions. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Your response should be, you know what, why don't you go first? In fact, do this. Where do you see me in 5 years? Because they ask you weird questions. They ask you questions like, tell me about a time you had a disagreement with a coworker and tell me how you worked it out. This should be your response. You should be like, oh, yeah. So a colleague took some credit for the work I did. I did all the work. They took all the credit, never mentioned my name. So here's what I did. I walked over to their cubicle. Here I am. Yeah, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So here's what's going to happen today. I love John Maxwell. Like, this dude is no longer, I have decided that John Maxwell is no longer, like, he's a verb in my life. Like for real, because he's taught me how to max well. He's taught you how to max well. So I honor that man who's taught me how to max well by using his name on a regular basis in the form of a verb. In fact, in order to max well today, I'm actually going to borrow some content. So me and my wife are focused on marriage right now. We have a company called Funny How Marriage Works, right? And I'm about to pull some content from that so I can max well at this event, help you with your marriage and your leadership, because it's necessary for me to max well. So let me put it in the form of a question. I'll start with this. What if your conflicts were the key to your peace? What if your conflicts were the key to your peace? Wow, you like peace or what? No. Like, so let me tell you a story. So when in high school, I remember my first year of high school, there was this girl I kind of liked. Her name was Danielle, and she was like really popular. So she really didn't know if she liked me or not. She had to make sure that I was cool first. So we would walk home from school, but she would be way in front of me. And then sometimes if she knew I was behind her, I could tell she would slow down just a little bit so I could catch up. And I really liked her a lot. Not too far into my 9th grade year, suddenly I got removed from this class that I was in, and they put me into a different class. It was a special ed classroom. And I didn't feel like I belonged in this class. Like nobody had a conversation with me, they just put me in this class. And in this class, there's kids, some of them had no ability, it seemed, to pick up on social cues. Some of them were thugs who at any moment were ready to fight. There were some in wheelchairs, and there were some who seemed to barely be functioning from a physical perspective. And I'm in this class, and I don't want to be in this class. I do not want to be here. I don't feel like I belong here. Why am I here? And I would work. One time I decided, you know what? I got to get out of here. Like I need to leave. And the reason it sparked so much is because later on that week, when I'm walking home, I noticed that Danielle didn't slow down anymore. Because you see, the kids who weren't in that class started making fun of me. They started teasing me and saying really, really mean things to the point where I lost all of those friends, and all I had was the people in this classroom. But I didn't want to be here, so then I decided I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna work really hard. See, at the end of the week, the teacher would always give us a grade. And I remember one week I'm working super hard. I'm talking about studying, doing everything I can. I turned the paper in, and the teacher gave me a D-, which is the lowest passing grade. Now I'm upset. So the next week I decide, you know what? I don't care. I'm not gonna do the work. I'll write in anything I can, whatever. I just put in whatever. Sometimes I didn't even finish the assignment. I turned it in. At the end of the week, she gave me a D, which is the lowest passing grade. And I said to her, why do I keep getting a D-? Why is this happening? And she said, what difference does it make? You're never gonna be anything anyways. Then she suggested that I skip class sometimes. She said, there's no point. We know where you're gonna end up. So what I took from that experience, subconsciously running in the back of my mind, was a sentence something like this: I'm not smart enough for people to like me. So I pull that, not even knowing it's running in the back of my head. Now I'm in this class, I can't get out. I can't get out this class. I'm in this class 4 hours a day for 4 years. Can't get out the class. I leave the class with this thing running in the back of my head. I'm not smart enough for people to like me. So what do? If you got that running in the back of your head, by default, you have to find a way for people to like you. I have a sense of humor. I can get people to laugh. I've made a career out of this. I find funny everywhere. When I was a kid, we didn't have any money. I was broke. I was actually being sponsored by a family from Haiti. I can find funny wherever. I don't drink 2% milk because I don't know what the rest of it is made out of. It's a math joke. There's 91% unaccounted for. If I had a nickel for every time somebody told me my math was wrong, I have $2.97. The joke is normally funnier, but I told you my history, so now you're concerned. I find funny everywhere, but why? I'm watching TV. You've seen this commercial before. It's the old lady, she fell down. She's like, help, I've fallen, and I can't get up. My first thought was, why don't the cameraman help her? He right there. Like, he is right there. So I developed this sense of humor. I never was a class clown, ever, because my dad has this thing that also is designed to keep his pants up. But I developed this sense of humor really from a place of, I'm not smart enough for people to like me. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna jump into getting some understanding. I have to get more information. I gotta start studying. I gotta start just getting all the information I can, reading all of these books. How many people in here happen to know that information is not enough? Even making people laugh, there was still an emptiness. Even getting all of this information, I just realized information's really not enough. In fact, I'm going to show you how much information is not enough. I have a nonprofit called Funny for the Forgotten, where we go to homeless shelters and prisons and abused children's facilities, and we take comedy there because I really believe that laughter is the tangible evidence of hope. So we go to these places, right? Now I'm at this one prison. Why are you doing comedy out of prison? It's a captive audience, that's why. So I'm in this prison, and I decide to do it. We do a comedy show for the prisoners. Afterwards, in this video clip I'm about to show you, I'm talking to the prisoners, kind of like men on the street, but we're in prison, so I'll call it men off the street. Check it.
I think it's the best show I saw since 8.5 years.
Ooh, how long you been in?
I've been here about 7 months.
I've been locked up for 2 years.
15 months.
You got your name on your, say, offender. Okay, cool. What do you think about today?
Oh, le doy gracias a Dios por dejarlos haber venido a traernos la palabra de Dios y dejarnos ser la felicidad de Dios que nos trae hacia nosotros.
He said he got filled with tongues today, too, the Holy Spirit. So that is awesome, man. Oh, snap, it's a DeBarge. I didn't even notice that. Did you ever say, hey, I might want to not have these gold teeth?
Yeah, actually, when I get out, I'm going to give me the Hollywood smile.
What's that?
It's veneer. The veneer teeth, all white.
Cool, that's what you had at first, though, brother.
Yeah, that's what I had at first, but I'm gonna get it back, man. I'm a black mold remover. I remove black mold.
Can't you just say I'm a mole remover? We know you're black. Hey, you got some ink on your chest. You got some ink. Oh, what does it say?
It says,
Hey, man, you ain't got to touch it and stuff while you talking to me, man. Are you rubbing on your chest while you talking to me, man?
No, man. It says a wise man knows how to defeat issues without raising a hand. He who does is find favor in anything that he does.
Wow. What you in for?
I'm assault.
Read your chest, dude. Information is not enough. It's written on his chest forever. So I'm trying to be funny. I'm getting information. None of this stuff is enough. So then I started pulling back, and I started thinking about what I was thinking about and how I was thinking about it. I began thinking about what I was thinking about and how I was thinking about it. So I realized in comedy, here's what was taking place. It was even taking place there. What I'm really doing, anytime I write a joke, is I see the punchline first. Like I'll see the punchline first, and then I'll write a setup to get to the punchline. And then I started noticing how I could adjust the punchline and get more laughs, which was awesome. Then I started noticing how I could adjust the setup and the punchline would have more impact as well. Now, I'm doing this anywhere from 75 to 150 times a show, and I'm doing anywhere from up to 9 shows a night. I've been doing this for 30 years now. So I understand the mechanism. I understand the math on bringing laughter to people. And then I started noticing even more. I started noticing this doesn't just apply to comedy. So when me and my wife decided to start Funny How Marriage Works and help marriages, I remember one time we were sitting with a couple, because sometimes we do these retreats, we take a company and all of them married couple, and I'm sitting with this couple and I'm listening to them, and I felt like I was supposed to look at their problem like it was a punchline. And everything opened up for me. I remember saying to a guy, I said, wait a minute, before this happens, do you do this, this, and this? He was like, how you know? I was like, I don't know. And we have discovered some patterns that people do in marriage, but also in leadership as a whole, that may not be the most effective pattern for you. In fact, there's this gold mine that you have. There's this tool that you have that you haven't been utilizing the way that you could, mainly because you're afraid of it. You're scared. You've been hurt there before. But I'm gonna show it to you and hopefully shed some different light on it, and then hopefully you can start to utilize it or at least get curious about it. What is this thing? It's called conflict. Most people try to avoid it. Some people don't avoid it, like bring it on. Nah, that's not what I'm talking about. Calm down, Samson. Conflict is gold. In fact, you guys really like conflict a lot. You like it more than you might think. Let me show it to you. So I have 5 kids. And I travel a lot, you know, so I can see them all. So what just happened right now? You already have some information about Michael Jr., but remember, information is not enough. You have some information about Michael Jr., so I just added to your information. I said, so I have 5 kids. You was like, yep, and that lined up with the information you already have. I said, I travel a lot. You're like, of course. It lined up with the information you have. Then I introduced a conflict. I said, I travel a lot so I could see them all. And because you were curious throughout this process, you got to the next step, which was revelation exposed by your laughter. So there's information, then there's conflict, then there's revelation. I will submit to you that without the conflict, there's no revelation. I'll show it to you right now. So I have 5 kids, and I love them. See? Nothing. You're just staring at me. It would have got awkward if I would have kept going, but there was no revelation because I pulled the conflict out. And what have you been trying to do in your leadership and your marriage? You've been trying to avoid the conflict. As opposed to one of the main ingredients, the foundational ingredients to what I just showed you was curiosity. If you're not curious, by default, you'll be furious. So you have to be curious. But instead of being curious, what do? Marriage, you've heard this before, you said it before, or you're living it. Marriage is all about compromise. If a bridge was compromised, you wouldn't drive over it. Ladies, would you like to have a compromised outfit? Anybody want a compromised computer? So why would you purposely create a compromised marriage and then live in it? In fact, I'm gonna give you a little nugget. And this applies to all areas of life, but here's what happens when you actually compromise. Here's what takes place. Whatever it is, you have a big disagreement. It could be at work, it could be whatever, your spouse, you're upset, and now the thing got big, so now you don't wanna touch that area no more. You gotta sweep it under the rug. But now there's a lump in your rug. You wonder why your spouse is always tripping. Because there's a lump in your rug. Compromise is great. Hear me out. Compromise is like a spare tire. It's great to get you to the next destination. So you can get the new tires, you can get the work done, but it's not designed for the long haul. And some of you guys, your marriages, maybe even your leadership, you rolling around on 4 donuts. Wondering why the ride is so rough. And somebody wants to get out the car. So then the more you compromise, the more lumps you have. Do you know anybody who's married who's used the phrase something like this before? I don't know what happened. It just seemed like we don't have anything to talk about anymore. Could it be that relationship or that part of your life has been over-compromised? Now listen, there are times of compromise. I just want to point some stuff out to you though. I'm just seeing this as a result of the way that I think. But there's some tools out there that are awesome. Love languages. Whoa, that is awesome. Anybody know their love language? What's your love language?
Acts of service.
Acts of service. That is awesome. Acts of service is awesome. So cool. You got physical touch, which technically could be an act of service if you think about it. I don't know how you get down. Anyway, but we'll use acts of service as an example. I will submit to you that most marriage content is a really cool way to compromise. Let me show it to you. So acts of service, ideally, if you want acts of service, your spouse is supposed to do acts of service, then your tank is full. What if your spouse's default, and I love Gary Chapman, he's my favorite podcast host I've ever had on my, ever. But what if it's not the way your spouse communicates? They have to compromise who they are so they can do that. And it sounds like love because they're filling up your tank. My question is, why is your tank leaking? That's what I want to look about. And it's a result of this thinking that I have. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity to see the conflict. We'll do some more jokes. You see if you can see the conflict and the setup. It'd be great. It'd be fun. Here's one now. Any vegetarians in here? If you're a vegetarian, raise your hand. Vegetarians, they can't even get their hand up. They're like, I'm just serious. Listen, I was gonna be a vegetarian. I decided I'm gonna go a week. Let's try it out for a week. I'm gonna go a week, veggies only. Here's what happens when you only eat vegetables. It messes with your memory. Hear me out. I was gonna go a week with only veggies. I got 2 days in, found myself eating a hamburger. I forgot all about them vegetables. That never happened when I was eating meat. I remember when I was a kid, my dad said to me, he said, he brought us all in. My mom was there, he brought us all in, and he said, hey, I just want you guys to know we're considering adoption. And my first response, apparently when I was 12 years old, I was like, no, I don't want to have to share my stuff with some kid. I don't want to have to do it. Am I going to have to share my stuff with some kids? To which my dad replied, I don't know. You're going to need to ask your new family about that. My daughter loves shopping at the Dollar Tree. I don't know if you've been to the Dollar Tree before, but they got some items there, and some of them are cool, but some of them are like something's just a little, like she got me a shirt, it was extra medium. I'm like, I don't know if this is right. She bought me a Bible. I was reading 3rd Genesis. I was like, Jeremiah loaded the ark? That's so weird. This is a foundational statement that I really like for the work we get to do in marriages and just for people. I think they're going to put on the screen too. Life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free yet. And the yet is optional. You can stay locked up if you want to. Life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free yet. So there's these things that take place that kind of bother you, and instead you try to adjust to them or get the people to compromise or do something as opposed to adding curiosity to your arsenal. If you add some curiosity, and I'm not just talking about any curiosity, there's a phrase that I like to use. I don't know if it's been said before, maybe so. I'm talking about internal curiosity. Life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free yet. As an example, how many people here are right now are just a little uncomfortable with the fact that that logo is crooked? Raise your hand. Where you at? Awesome. So what did you do? The logo's crooked. What did you do? Love language. What did you do? See, everybody has something that they do. Some people just ignore it altogether. Here's the thing. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you ignored the logo, you're ignoring some other things. Some people was like, we need to call the tech. They don't even know. Some people turn their heads just like this right here. They're like, you know what, I'm just going. But the more you adjust as opposed to getting curious, the more likely you are to discover some discomfort physically. You have to be curious as opposed to furious because everything plays. Everything plays. So curiosity as opposed to curiosity. People ask me, because I'll be on stage and people be like, yo, where did you learn to communicate like this? How did you figure this out? Did you take a class? And my response is, yes. For 4 hours a day, for 4 years. I'm in this class, and I'm in here with these people who don't look anything like me. And I don't understand them when I first get there. But after a while, because I don't have any other friends, I get to know these people. And the people who couldn't pick up on social cues, I was able to understand them and they could understand me. The thugs who didn't care about anything at all, we built a relationship. The guys in the wheelchairs and whatnot were super amazing people. And the lady, the girl in particular, who seemed like she really couldn't function physically, I got her to laugh. I was able to communicate with all of these people by the end of it, and they became my friends in preparation for you to become my friends, because I can communicate to you as well. In fact, you may be wondering, well, if you were doing that, what about the grades you were supposed to be getting in school? No, you understand, I had an amazing teacher. My teacher was so awesome. No matter how much I talked to my new friends, she was gonna make sure I got a passing grade. She made sure and she offered me vacation whenever I wanted it. She was amazing. All of that was preparation so I could stand here and do this at the level I get to do it to. What if the conflicts from your past, let me say it like this. What if the conflicts in your present that came from your past was preparation for your future? But you will never know if that's the case if you don't get curious, because there's two conflicts that happen. The first one you're not aware of. There's a conflict inside before you ever have one on the outside. But you're trying to change what's happening on the outside as opposed to getting curious about the inside. The setup is in here, the punchline is out there. You have to be curious as opposed to furious. I so want you to be curious. In fact, the next time you bump into somebody, the next time you see somebody, if you think about a type of person you don't like, just get internally curious for that, just for a moment. Instead of going external, just get internal and be like, how is it possible that they could take me off my nines? And what I mean by that is every day, one of the things we teach is every day you should expect to be a 9. I'm not saying you will be a 9, but if you expect to be a 9 and something takes you off your 9, now you got a reason to get curious. But if you're not expecting anything, that's exactly what you're going to get. So expect a 9. By the way, there happens to be 9 fruits of the Spirit. So when they take you off your 9, what are you missing? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. So if it takes you off your 9, instead of getting furious, I just want you to get curious. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I hope that provided a few laughs for some of you and some insights. What we're going to do now, I've got a couple of operators on. Eric, DK. DK, first time I'm seeing you since the new hairstyle. I like it. It looks good.
A man has to keep his word. I
They,
made a promise to my team, and now I'm blonde.
I like it. What was the promise, if I can ask?
Yeah. So about a little over a year ago, sales were in a much different place, and the team and I were talking about sales, and we were like, "Man, you think we could ever hit $1 million month?" And I foolishly said, "That would be awesome." I said, "If we ever did that, I'd do something crazy like dye my hair or something."
Wow.
And the director team was like, "Deal, we got you." And lo and behold, January we hit it.
I love that. Well, congratulations on that goal. Congratulations on the new look. It's very fitting.
I don't think it's gonna stick around long though.
That's great. So, we've got a couple minutes here. I know everyone wants to probably get to dinner or maybe get to that favorite show they want to watch on Sunday night. But I thought it would be a miss for us if we didn't just take a few minutes to just download a little bit, debrief a little bit about what we just heard. And I'd love for you guys to jump in if you had something. I'll add that if you are on the call and you had something you want to share about what you learned, if you raise your hand, I can actually promote you so that you can also share live for everyone else to hear. I don't want to put pressure on you. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but I want to make it to where we all have the opportunity to share if we have that. So again, if you looked in the notes, and if you haven't already, check in the chat. You should see a link there. I provided you notes. You can download those. You can take those with you. You can share those with your friends, your other leaders on your team. But there are some takeaways from this that I thought were really interesting. Probably the top one for me was curiosity over frustration. He said, if you're not curious, you'll be furious. I don't know if you've ever had a moment where something happens and you just get real upset right away. I know that happens to me. And when he started talking about this, the first time I saw this talk, I started to kind of take note of things that would frustrate me or upset with me. And I said, what is it about this that's frustrating me? Instead of getting frustrated, why am I frustrated, right? He had a few quotes that I really liked too. He said, compromise is like a spare tire. It gets you to the next stop, but it's not meant for the long haul. And I really like that analogy. I don't know if any of y'all have ever had a spare tire on your car. It's handy, but it does not treat your car well if you leave it on there too long. Eric, DK, did either of you have anything that stood out to you in the talk that he gave that was like, man, this was a good takeaway for me?
I think for me, all the content's phenomenal, but also the way his delivery, his confidence, and humility that he talks throughout the whole time is really it's just incredible to watch. Like I feel like for all the leaders out there, like that's when to have that kind of composure and actually like authenticity is definitely what people are looking for in leadership.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Eric is saying. I really like his delivery. I like how he frames conflict as an opportunity, right? Like I think a lot of us have that tendency to want to avoid or run from conflict, but you guys both are have been avid exercisers and worked out, and know what it's like to build your body, and it's like sometimes it takes that stress for the muscle to grow stronger.
Yeah, it doesn't grow stronger without the stress. I liked the analogy, the spouse analogy. I'm not married at the moment, but said if your spouse is tripping all the time, maybe it's because you keep sweeping things under the rug with
Yeah,
that
I love
compromise. I
that.
thought that was really, really good.
Eye-opening.
So I guess on that note, I had a couple questions that I wanted to ask. And again, if you're out there and you're listening and you have like a thought that you want to share, maybe you hear this question, you're like, hey, I'd really like to speak into this. All you have to do is raise your hand and I'll see it. And then I can promote you to panelist. And then you can jump on and share. I had a couple other folks that said they were going to do that as well in just a few minutes. But we're going to get through these questions here. So they're found in your guide that I uploaded. But the first one is about conflict as a leadership tool. He said that conflict is gold. So Eric, DK, how do you guys typically handle conflict in your restaurants?
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
conflict, certainly is an opportunity, but one left unchecked. I have had leaders in the past who maybe they start, butting heads, and unfortunately, you end up losing somebody really good because for one reason or the other, they're not meshing with someone else or the rest of the leadership team. And that was always really frustrating for me because it feels like a needless failure, right? It doesn't happen often. So we came up with a little kind of like conflict outline that we use when we escalate and identify something that needs to be had, a conversation needs to be had. We have it's like 5 different things that we run down, and we're trying to train our kind of mid-level leaders to be able to identify and handle conflict within team members and different things like that, not just as it escalates. I've spent mostly on this call, probably don't know my background, but I spent a lot of time as an agent and doing interviews, right? And I would interview people and during investigations and things like that. And I'll never forget 2 things that they always told us were people feel most connected to you during 2 ways when they communicate. Either when you listen to what they're saying and they feel heard, that's the number 1 time that they feel connected to you, but also when they identify with something that you're saying, kind of like how we were watching Michael and there was bits that kind of stuck out to us and you identified with that. So during those times are the times where you connect the most.
I really like that. I like that a lot. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think like you're a fool to think that conflict is not going to exist in the restaurant or in your work. So we welcome conflict in Annandale. It's got to be through love. And if you all love each other and want the best for each other, then we welcome it. It's just got, like DK was saying, there's got to be boundaries. You got to check each other. It's just like a family atmosphere.
Yeah.
With my wife or with my daughters, there's going to be conflict, but if it's out of love and you're trying to have a common goal and common purpose, then it's definitely healthy. I think COVID, I wasn't an operator during COVID, but it was conflict every day because things are changing. We're having to adapt. if we didn't speak our minds, we would have not succeeded so well as a brand without that healthy conflict.
Yeah, no, that's totally right. I don't know if you guys have ever read The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Pat Lencioni, but he talks about the five things that cause dysfunction in a team of any kind. And one of those things, I think it's number 2 on the list, is a fear of conflict. It's this idea of avoiding things instead of hitting them head on. And in restaurant, I feel like there's a couple of different places that you can find conflict. I mean, of course, there's the team conflict. But then there's like between leaders. I don't know if y'all's leaders all get along. I mean, I know my leaders sometimes, I think there might be a few of them on the call actually right now. There's a few leaders that, they butt heads a little bit. What about customers? I mean, do you all have customers that there's zero conflict with them? Curious.
Yeah, we all have. I think actually at Next, for those who don't know, we were all recently at a operator conference that they hold every year. They were talking about, I'm not sure who it was either Cliff or John, just about like that as leaders, we're able to solve people's problems. We get that opportunity. So when you reframe your mind, because I was a leader in Chick-fil-A for 8 years before becoming an operator. And if you look at every conflict or argument or customer complaint as, poor me, like, no, us as leaders get to be able to help solve those problems. Like, that's why we're leaders.
Yeah. It's almost like when you have that customer, and there's going to be some crazy ones out there, but when you have that customer that just has a problem they got to tell you about, if you can recover that customer, a lot of times they turn out to be the most loyal customers after. I have loads of examples of that over the time that I've been an operator. So I think conflict is one of those things. If you can learn how to manage it and manage it well, can be super helpful. I'm actually going to be promoting, it looks like Dave wants to jump on. Dave is an operator in Florida. I know this is the thing we said it's for the DC market, but Dave is a friend of mine. And when he heard about this, he said he wanted to jump on. So Dave, you're on as a panelist as well. Did you had something that maybe you wanted to share about conflict is gold?
Conflict is gold. Conflict. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Conflict is like a invited tension. If you don't, I think that when you have proper conflict, I would turn it around and look at it more as like a tension where the best ideas from everybody can be contributed and the best idea comes to the top. And if people are treating conflict as a tool for growth, it benefits everybody at the store. It benefits the customer. It benefits the whole operation. And I think, when we look at conflict, attacking it and looking at it, through the eyes of humility, it really helps elevate, the right ideas.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask everyone out there to just take a moment, think of a time recently, not, 10 years ago, sometime where you had conflict staring you in the face. Something was going on at the restaurant, maybe with another team member, maybe with another leader, maybe with a customer. I just want you to think of the moment that happened. If you have something to write with or write on, I want you to write down just something quick about that moment that'll help you remember it. And then after our call, we don't have much time left, but after our call, I want you to reflect on that moment. And I want you to ask yourself, how could I have looked at this moment more like it was gold and less like it was a burden or something frustrating? So just take a moment to do that. While we do that, I'm going to ask the next question. And guys, I don't think we're going to have enough time to get through all these questions. So we're going to get through as many as we can. Let's see which one I like best, actually. And by the way, a reminder out there, if you are listening and you want to share, raise your hand and I will promote you so that you can also share on the call here. So the next question, I'm going to go to the compromise is like a spare tire comment. So compromise versus resolution. I really like the analogy. I mentioned that, when your tire goes flat, you got to put the spare on. It gets you past the current situation, but it's really not meant to go through. So Michael Jr. talked about compromises like that. Compromise is only meant to be done in the short term, not the long term. So here's the question. where do you see leaders or including ourselves settling for quick fixes instead of addressing a real issue? The follow-up to that is, how do we shift from short-term compromises to long-term solutions? It's a little bit more of an in-depth question. If you guys need a second to think about it, you can, while I let Shelby come on. Hey, Shelby, how are you? Good to have you on as well. So the question again, where do you see leaders, including yourself, settling for quick fixes instead of addressing the real issue? What do you guys think?
Can you hear me all right?
I can. How are you?
Okay, great. I'm doing so well. Hey, thanks so much. Hey, Dave, good to see you again. Hey, everybody. Yeah, you were asking about settling. It was actually making me think about the curiosity versus furious conversation that was just had. And I think what happens more often than we probably anticipate in both of these questions is the reactive happens instead of the proactive. So I think about curiosity as being a proactive emotion. And I think about furiousness being that reactive emotion when something doesn't go according to plan. And we see that obviously in interpersonal relationships. But we can also see it in business, right? Like you can think of a ton of things in our restaurants as well that are proactive versus reactive. It's infuriating to get a $20,000 positive gap on your food cost report, but it's curiosity to pull up the inventory activity report, right? And day-to-day work through that with our teams. And so I think about where are we compromising in relation to those exact thoughts. And I think when we breed curiosity in our teams and in our business, it generates a spirit of generosity. And when we live and when we exist in a place of generosity, our service to others, it looks like Truett. You know, I mean, I think about that word plastered on his 93rd birthday on the inside, you know, railings at the home office. And I see that word generous. And I think, how do we get there as a brand, especially in all the change, especially in multiplying our units by doubled over the next couple of years? And the answer is that we don't compromise, you know, we don't compromise. And I heard him say, compromise is a killer. I mean, that wasn't his word, but compromise is in fact the killer. And so you ask, well, in what ways are we compromising? Are we choosing the short term? We are allowing the emergency to take place and precedent in our lives over the important, you know? And it happens all the time. I mean, I see operators, I see leaders, I see executive level leaders and team members alike that think, oh my gosh, like, it's Q4, we're busy, we gotta hurry up and hire people. So they open the floodgates to the front door to bring in team members just to have bodies on, and there's a rift in the standard and the execution in the restaurant, and everyone's looking around and pointing fingers like, well, this leader didn't do this and this leader didn't do that. No, the problem is that we opened the floodgate. You know, we gotta have the smaller front door and the bigger back door. The standard has to be the same all the time. And so we compromise when we choose, I think, the emergent and the immediate, and we choose not to be curious, and we turn away from generosity. You know, and I've been there before. I've been there before as a leader. I'm ashamed to say there are times where, you know, I'm sorry that you're sick, but how are we going to get 210 cars in an hour in the drive-through? You know?
Yeah. Shelby.
Or I'm sorry that, you know, things like that. So anyway, does that answer your question?
I mean, if that wasn't a mic drop moment, I don't know what is. That was really, really good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just sharing my thought as you asked that question.
No, that's great. I mean, of course, you know, operators on the call, like that 20,000 food cost gap, like that'll shock you, right? But if, you know, you're a leader on the call and, you know, so-and-so is called out 6 times this month and they called out again today. And that's something that could make you pretty furious. Or you walk in and your drive-thru's in red, or your bagging screen is in red if you don't have a drive-thru, and you walk in, you're pretty upset. And instead of getting curious, you get real urgent. You push the person out of the way and you just start bagging like a mad person. And you solve it short term. I think it's such a good call out, Shelby. And you know, those of you that were at Next, you remember Simon Sinek talking about, you know, that person that's underperforming, and you know, the furious person would say, you know, hey, you've been underperforming. You know, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? And the curious person would stop and say, "Hey, I've been noticing you've been underperforming for a while. What's going on? Is everything okay?" And I love the fact that you tied that to Truett, because I think that is the generosity that Truett had. He wouldn't assume things right away. So I'd love to hear somebody else. Eric, DK, Dave, another team member that's out there in webinar land. If you want to raise your hand and add on to what Shelby said, would love to invite. Eric, looks like you were about to unmute.
I think for me, to go in a tad bit of a different direction with compromise versus resolution, I think where I struggle sometimes as an operator is I want leaders sometimes more than, for them to hit their goal more, becoming an operator or LDP. Did I freeze? I hope I didn't freeze.
Your audio's not frozen, but your
Okay.
face is.
Well,
you froze in a really good position, though.
Yeah,
we're not going to screenshot this at all.
But I think,
oh man, he's like dropping gold right here, and he's frozen now. We can't hear him. I don't know. Does somebody want to help out Eric while he figures out his tech issues? DK, you want to take over for a second?
Yeah, for sure. I think the challenge for us is oftentimes, the operational side, right? We'll mess something up, like whether we do a lot of catering in our restaurant. So, you mess something up or whatever it is, and then you act, emotionally. You're like, come on, guys, this was a big catering account. We can't mess this up. They're really upset. And then rather than actually deep dive the problem and say like, hey, what went wrong? How can we fix it so it doesn't happen again? We get distracted and we go on to the next big catering order and just make everything happen. So you got to take that time to fix the system, not just the situation.
Yeah, I love that.
And I'm sorry, I cut off. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Just to tie that up is, I think just like the compromise is, we'll work on our personal development for the next week, or, that's a compromise. You're just fixing something, but is it a resolution? Is it a long-term plan? How are you going to be consistent with your personal development or feedback that you're welcoming or practice interviews? It's not just a short-term compromise, but it needs to be a long-term resolution to help you get to that goal.
I love that. I think that's awesome. Dave, did you have something you wanted to round us out with?
This is all great context and things, and to be vulnerable in these moments is the fact that I learn a lot of times from the leaders, and I can see the leaders in my organization, at our Chick-fil-A, that when I show up and I'm not the best person, I can see that in them. They respond based upon how I show up, and I know I've been on the bad side. I've also been on the good side. Truett was a great example about generosity and curiosity. I think in the moments of tension, we think we know it all as the alpha coming in screens that are red, whatever the situation might be. And it's easy to, throw blame, point fingers. You don't really solve the situation that way. It might, as you said, momentary, but long-term, it doesn't, because every little thing that you do compounds into something else and it stacks on top of itself. The little things add up to the big things. And in the mindset of like when Maxwell, when he wrote The High Road Leader, and you have the low road, mid road, and high road, it's like, taking that mindset and putting that DNA into your culture, which we have. We talk about the high road and low road. And sometimes it's real easy when a customer has like done the business wrong or a situation. I asked them, I said, so what is better for you to do? To go to the low road like I have, or do you want to look at the high road? We had a huge catering order that, we lost about 400 sandwiches with. And my team was like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Because you're the ones that have led this. And, throwing that tension back on them to stimulate growth in them, to see what they come up with as an idea, helps to me stimulate the growth that they need. but also under the governance of the guardrails of the business and the core values. And they chose to take the high road in this situation, which is really cool. They continued to serve the guest even though we were going to be out the food. They served them. And I said, next time we know what to do. But that you learn from these things. And sometimes it's a sacrifice you've got to do, and sometimes it's monetary. But the long-term effect of that one situation sets us up for a better success next time. So
yeah, I love that. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, right, Dave? I want to challenge everyone with one final question. I'm looking at my clock. It's 7:59-ish, 58. And I want to end on time. So I'm going to ask everyone that's listening in to do one more thing. As you're thinking through where you've compromised at some point versus resolving something, you've compromised something just to smooth it over, just to keep going because it's too busy right now to focus on fixing it. You just got to get through the next day. I want you to do the same thing we did earlier. I want you just to, maybe close your eyes, think for a moment. What's that compromise that you made recently? Not 10 years ago, something that happened maybe this past week, something that happened maybe on Saturday at the restaurant, something that you compromised on. Ask yourself, how could I handle that differently based on what I learned today? And just write that down, or write down something that'll help you remember that, because you're going to maybe need to reflect on that a little bit more. So I'm going to close by, first of all, thanking all of you for joining. This was our very first Leader Connect Live. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. It's going to be the exact same show, so you don't have to log on and do it just because we're doing it. But we want to figure out what time of day and what day of week works best to do this for the DC market. And so we're going to do one tomorrow. Don't feel the obligation to join. But we are going to do another one of these next month. And I don't know the day yet. We'll get something out far enough in advance so you can clear your schedules. But we're going to feature John Maxwell in our next talk. And I believe we're going to do a talk where he has the abundance mindset is what he's going to be talking through. So I want to invite all of you to join us again for the next Leader Connect Live. I think you might have the opportunity to take a poll at the end of this, maybe in your email, to just give some feedback about this, what you liked, what you didn't. We want to get better. We want to grow, because our ultimate goal here is to provide something that adds value to operators and leaders across the DC market. So the last thing I want to do is thank those of you that were brave enough to jump on as panelists. Eric, DK, y'all are amazing co-hosts. Thank you. Dave and Shelby, thank you so much for joining. And P.S. Shelby, congratulations. I know you had a special big day a couple weeks ago, so congrats to you on that. And on that note, I want to wish y'all a great evening. Hope you'll have a nice close to your weekend and a great week this week. Thanks for joining Leader Connect Live. Have a good one.